Today I want to talk to you about a plant that I think is one of the most important plants that you should be able to identify in the woods, especially for your early season whitetail hunts. This is a plant that is so preferred by whitetail that in some regions they have almost wiped it out. It's an annual, it only propagates by producing seeds, and like I said, in some places the whitetails have eaten so much of it and eat it so early that there's very little seed to keep propagating. So what is this plant? Well, it has a couple different names. The first is jewelweed and the next is touch-me-not. It's called jewelweed because on the leaves there's little fine hairs, and in the early morning mist and during light rain it captures a little bit of water and a little bit of air pocket in there, and when the sun hits it, it just glistens like a jewel, hence the name jewelweed. The other name is derived from its exploding seed pods, and that's touch-me-not. So when the seed pods are hanging off the plant, if you touch them, they actually blow up and disperse the seeds everywhere. Why is this plant so important? Well, we're going to walk around a little bit today, and I'm going to show you some different areas. I'm going to show you what it looks like, what to look for, and why this plant is so important. I'm also going to tell you how it will help you have an early harvest. Very important. So jewelweed is really cool because it has everything that a deer needs just within one plant. It's high moisture, vitamins A, C, D, minerals like magnesium and phosphorus. It's a very good source of fiber for them. Matter of fact, it has enough water in the plant that they don't have to even drink as much. Having a four-chambered stomach, they're able to remove all of that moisture out of the jewelweed, and it really helps them out, especially in dry conditions. If you have drought conditions, jewelweed loves to grow in moist, damp areas, along roadways, fields, creek beds, especially boggy areas. That's what jewelweed prefers, and you will actually see that deer mow it to the ground. They'll take it all the way down to ankle height, and you're talking about a plant that can get 5 feet if it's left alone, but most of the time in the whitetail woods, you'll never see it that high. Matter of fact, 2 foot is a good sized plant where the whitetail are traveling through. Now, why is this such an important plant? Well, if you just glass across this area here, this is a nice moist area. There's a lot of shade, a lot of canopy, and this drops off to a creek bed. So it's a nice moist area, it's shady. This plant thrives in the shade. But if you look, everything seems to be the same level. Well, that's not typically natural in the woods, is it? That's because it's jewelweed, and every single one of them has been trimmed and eaten as the deer browse through this. This is really important to them, enough so that they will maneuver their bedding areas late season, late summer, into these close to these areas where they can just move quickly from bedding and make this their feeding area. They will spend a lot of time here. And as we travel through, you'll be able to see where deer trails actually have been changed and rerouted. This time of year, you can see them clear as day through the jewelweed, but after the first frost, jewelweed is gone. It cannot survive a frost at all, but if you've already recognized those trails, you'll be much more successful at setting up your fall stands and being in position. Now, if you have an early season that doesn't have a frost overlap, where you're going to be able to hunt some period of time where the jewelweed is actually still up, it's a money spot because the deer will actually stop there, present themselves for a shot. This is a really good opportunity for you. So let's walk around a little bit, and I'm going to show you some other areas with jewelweed and some potential sets that are going to be really good. Now, this is a really interesting spot where you can kind of just see to my right here all the way down. This is all trimmed jewelweed. It's actually that they've made their own trail right through this woods, right through all the multiflora, taking advantage of the jewelweed the whole way. In fact, this is not the fall after jewelweed path, if you will, that the deer take through our woods. We've been here forever. We know where the deer travel, but this is not a late season trail at all. This is only when there's jewelweed here, but you can actually visually see the trail going down as the deer follow this. It's all mowed the same height. They go off to the left and right, and they have trimmed absolutely everything. And the reason this is here like that is because there's a low spot drainage that comes through the woods. You can kind of get an idea. You can see it's wet in here, and it's a high spot on the left and right side. So you got this little low spot, nothing drastic, but just enough to have the right moisture content that jewelweed loves, and therefore you have the deer traveling that same exact area. So this next spot here, this is important because that trail that I just showed you through the jewelweed comes down here and connects with this trail that crosses the creek and goes up into a field. Now the field doesn't have anything in it but hay, there's some clover there, some other things they can browse on, but all they're concerned about right now is the jewelweed. What makes this spot so unique, we've talked about it in the past, there's some white oaks right here. This is a great spot, and we have a tree stand right on the other side of this pin oak here to take advantage of that. But this is my early season stand, and the reason it is because it's surrounded in jewelweed. What makes this spot unique is the jewelweed wasn't naturally in my shooting spots at 20 yards by itself. I put it there. So this is a secret. If you have jewelweed in an area that you're hunting and you have a stand and it's close, but you want jewelweed closer and it's shady and damp, you can propagate the jewelweed to make the deer stop right where you want them. And that's the case we have here. With this jewelweed, you can see it's all mowed down, this as well. The deer come off that rise that I showed you earlier and they stop right here. I have an 18-yard shot, and this is on purpose. So here's what you need to know about jewelweed. When it goes to seed, late summer, early fall, you just need to capture those seeds and put them in the refrigerator and keep them there until late spring the next year when there is no chance of a frost anymore, and just drop them on the ground. They need, the jewelweed seed requires sunlight for germination, so you don't want to put them under the ground, you don't want to bury them, you just want to broadcast them on the bare dirt. So if you need to move some leaves around and get them on the bare dirt where the sunlight can get to them, that's all you need to do, and then you just forget about it, and you can have these nice little stopping patches that you have put in place where the deer are no doubt going to slow down and take a few bites and give you an opportunity.